Hi, welcome to the Pink Moon Tarot. I'm Nikki, the Pink Moon Tarotist, and in today's video, I am going to be discussing my top 5 tarot decks for the beginner. Now, some of these might surprise you, some of them will be ones that you have probably heard of before. But the reason I've chose them will be different in each case. But the reason you should choose a tarot deck is because it speaks to you. This is really, really important when choosing a tarot deck, whether it's your first one or your 10th one. Always go for something that speaks to your heart, that you feel a connection to, and that you feel you are going to be excited to use and to read. And the reason for this is because reading tarot isn't just about picking up the book and looking at the meaning of the card and saying what each card means individually. It's about the whole story. It's about how they weave together. And as you go on with your tarot reading, you will find that you can infer meaning from the cards depending on the situation that you're reading about, depending on the person you're reading about. You will start to get a feeling for each card, but you won't get that feeling if you don't feel a connection in the first place to that deck. Now, I have a classic example of this. My very first tarot deck ever was this one. A bit of a monster. It comes from Switzerland. It is in Swiss French, which didn't help. But it was my great-grandmother's tarot deck, and I inherited it after she passed away. Now, the tarot deck itself, this is the box. The tarot deck itself, there is nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly good tarot deck. You know, it has pretty standard depictions of the different suits of the major arcana. And, you know, you can work out what each one is, even though you may not speak French, just by what is on the actual card itself. So that being said, that wasn't a huge issue for me. And it was my first ever deck. And I did use it from the age of 14 for quite some number of years because I didn't have another tarot deck. And it took me a while to find one that I connected with. But the thing is, this tarot deck was never mine. It was my great-grandmother's. And so therefore she had the connection to it, not me. And as much as I have inherited her gifts in some ways, and, you know, as much as I loved my great-grandmother and I loved having her deck, and I did enjoy working with it in the beginning, it just wasn't the deck for me. And I can read from it still, but I just don't. I choose not to because it just, I've replaced it with decks I prefer. So that brings me on to my number 5 on the list. So number 5 on my list of good decks for beginners to start with may surprise you. It is this one. It is the Cosmic Tarot by Norbert Loesch. Now, this deck was produced in 1988, and as you can see, my copy is pretty battered. This is the original version, so it's, you know, it's quite old. I think it's still available, but they've revamped it. They've given it a new box, a new look, but the artwork is still pretty much the same. It's just had a makeover. And hopefully they've improved this little book that comes with it, because the little guidebook, as you can see, is tiny, and the actual suits themselves are all kind of running one on from the other. They don't have a separate page, there's no pictures, and it's quite difficult to follow. However, the good thing about this tarot deck is because it has such a nod to the original Rider-Waite, which is the tarot deck that most books will talk about. If not the Rider-Waite, then they will talk about the Thoth deck. But most books will make some reference to the Rider-Waite, and you can kind of get the same gist of what each card means from the books that tell you how to read tarot. What I do love, though, is the artwork, like I say. I mean, this has got to be my favourite Ace of Cups of all time. It's just stunning. Look at this. What I love about this particular deck is each card, the picture really, for me, depicts the meaning of the card. So this one, you know, your cup overflowing. It's overflowing with love and abundance. It's the Ace of Cups. You know, then you have the Five of Wands, talking about conflict. And look at that, you know. It's very obvious what that card represents. The Ace of Swords is inspiration, knowledge, you know, and you've got the sword there and it's lit up all around. It's very, very obvious. And even the Six of Pentacles, the gift card, you know, it's just, that man is there with his pentacles over above him and just being glad to receive, you know. So each card, I always say the Two of Cups is my minor arcana version of the Lovers. Well, it's not just mine, it's most tarot readers, minor arcana version of the Lovers. And, you know, this one depicts it perfectly. You have a couple kissing. What else says lovers more than that? And so, you know, the artwork is very, very good for learning how to interpret the meanings behind the cards. And as I say, because it does give that nod to the traditional Rider-Waite, you can certainly see the similarities in the artwork, you can see the similarities in the meaning, and you can use any companion guide to help you to determine what each card means individually. What you don't get with this, I don't think you get any, oh no, you do get some spreads in the back here. So there are a few spreads as well. So if at a push, you could use this to get the meanings. And if you know the cards at all, you can certainly recognize what each one is because it's very obvious. The only difference with this is, like the Thoth tarot deck, this one has princesses rather than pages. So here, you have the Princess of Wands, which would be the Page of Wands in the traditional Rider-Waite. But the Thoth tarot deck follows the same suit. So, you know, it's certainly easy to work it out. And it is a beautiful deck. And I love the artwork. And I love the fact that I can kind of see in these pictures some famous actors being reflected from the 1980s in the actual drawings. One of them to me looks like Sean Connery, another one looks like Johnny Depp. So, you know, there's all sorts in there that delight somebody who has lived through the 80s. Okay, so my number 4 on the tarot deck is the one I just talked about, Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck. Now, the Thoth deck, hold on, let me just check this. Okay, so the Thoth deck is the deck that is used in the Tarot Handbook. And the whole book is based around this particular deck. Okay, so with this deck, you have a little, well, not so little, you have a kind of a roadmap of how to lay out the tarot in the traditional Celtic cross. And each of these circles explains what the positions of each of these cards means. So, like, for example, number 10 here is the final result, the culmination and result from all of the influences as revealed by the reading, provided events and influences, excuse me, continue as indicated. Now, the Celtic cross is probably the first spread that most people learn in tarot. Personally, I can't stand it. Just don't like it. I don't know why, but I don't. I know there's a lot of tarotists out there still use the traditional Celtic cross, and good on them. I just don't get on very well with it. But there are plenty of other ways to lay out the cards. And when you get more experienced, you can create your own, which is what I've done. Now, in this, you have a slightly better little booklet with all the card meanings inside. But again, they're all just running one on from the other. And as you can see, the writing is tiny. There's no spreads in the back. I don't know. Oh yeah, there's some spreads in the front. So they give you some ideas for spreads in the front. Actually, I think they might only give you one spread. And obviously the map that they put out as well. But what I do love about the Thoth Tarot deck and why it is so good for beginners is that you have your major arcanas. Let me see if I can find one now. Should have thought this through. So you have your major arcanas, like the Emperor. And, you know, the Emperor is divine masculine. He looks very masculine. He looks very authoritative. You know, it's a pretty obvious sort of feeling to that card. You know, you look at that picture and it gives you a feeling. And that's what you need to be doing when you're looking at your tarot cards, is getting that feeling from them. And the what are they called? The court cards, so the royalty cards, all have their names on them as well. So you've got the Queen of Cups here, and Prince of Cups here, you know, and the names are at the bottom there. The numbers are at the top on the major arcana. But then with the minor arcana, not including the court cards, what I really love is you have the number at the top. So this is the 2 of discs, as it's called in this deck. And it says discs at the bottom there. But it also gives you a little word to give you a hint about what the card is about. So this one says change. So the 2 of discs represents some sort of change. And here we have the 3 of swords, which has the word sorrow at the bottom of it. So it's really, really lovely for beginners. And we've got the 6 of swords, says science, you know. So it's really lovely for beginners because you have, you know, the number, the name of the card, and when it is not an ace or a royalty card, you also have a word to help you. So the 5 of wands has strife at the bottom of it, which is very apt because the 5 of wands is about conflict and trouble and squabbles and that kind of thing. So it really does help you. And as I said, the tarot handbook itself is based on this deck. Oh, and let me show you. That's the back of the card. And this is still widely available all over the place. It is one of the first tarot decks that was ever created or mass produced, I should say. I'm not sure how many decks were created by other people before it, but this one and the Waite one are the 2 most well-known, most universally known decks, and they have been around for a very, very long time. So that's number 4. So number 3, again, is a little bit of a quirky one. And this goes back to my original statement of choosing a deck that speaks to you. So I chose this one, the Seers Tarot. This was one of my first decks I ever bought. I actually think I got this before the Cosmic Tarot. No, I can't have. It hasn't been around that long. Anyway, this one was one of my first tarot decks that I bought recently, shall we say, when I decided to start doing tarot on a more public forum. And the Seers Tarot by Chris Ann is a stunning deck, but the most wonderful thing about it is this little companion book that it has to go with it. It is a really great little book You know, it's pocket sized, it's the size of the cards. But inside, you have different spreads. Then you have the major arcana with their picture, the derivatory meaning, and the, well, it says light seer meaning and shadow seer meaning. So that would be the reverse meaning and the divinatory meaning, sorry. So the upright and the upside down, basically. And so it gives you both, which a lot of books actually don't. A lot of books don't give you the reverse meaning of cards, because in actual fact, a lot of tarotists, especially ones that started many, many years ago, don't read reversals. They don't think that it is necessary, because the card contains everything that it needs, whether it is in the upright or in the reverse. And you can infer the meaning depending on the other cards around it. So there really is no need to do reversals, but most of us do it these days. And then, so not only do you have the divinative meaning or the light seer meaning and the shadow seer meaning, you then have a description on how this works within the readings. So whether it's a past influence, whether it's your present influence, whether it's an obstacle, and you get a little bit of blurb about how it relates to each of those positions. And then you get these wonderful little messages that are like pullouts, takeaways. So, for example, we have the Hermit. It says, inner sage, inner mentor, inner guide, show me my brightest light so that I may see with all of my heart. So it's a gorgeous little summary of what the Hermit means. And this book really is nicely laid out and a nice size, and even me without my glasses, I can read it, so it's not that bad. So this is how the back of the cards look. They're beautiful. It's lovely cardstock. It's a lovely matte finish. They're just a little bit bigger than a regular deck of cards. They're a bit bigger than the Cosmic Tarot. And I think they're a bit bigger than the Thoth as well. But again, the artwork is stunning. So here's the Chariot, you know, and it, again, the artwork depicts the meaning so beautifully. So you've got the white horse and the black horse going in opposite directions, and the chariot driver trying to drive them forwards. Basic, sort of very basic understanding of what the card means. And, you know, the artwork, like I say, it's just beautiful. So the Five of Pentacles, I absolutely love this Five of Pentacles, actually. Fives are always to do with something to do with trouble, by the way. But the Five of Pentacles, you know, what I love about this card and the beauty of this card is the Five of Pentacles is that feeling like you've been ostracized, like you've been left out in the cold, like you're all alone. But it's usually something that you have invented within your own mind. It's not something that other people actually feel about you. And it's shown so beautifully here, because you've got this girl sat in the mud, you know, with her head in her knees. And there's this beautiful door with the Five Pentacles on, all lit up behind her. A great big keyhole there and a great big key. So she could easily get up and go and open the door and get in out of the gold. So it's really well thought out. And again, it gives a nod to the traditional Rider-Waite. You know, so you've got the Three of Pentacles working together. The Empress, who is about birth and fertility. You know, I mean, how much more obvious could that be? And the Sun, you know, the ultimate joy card and the Say Yes card. And you know, you can see that from that card and that connection that you make with it. Same as the Three of Swords, which was, what did that have? Sorrow, didn't it, on the Thoth one? So this is, you know, it's the imagery is fantastic. It's really definitive. It's really helpful. Oh, another one I love in this deck, of course, is the Death card, because it says death and rebirth, which of course is what death symbolizes. It symbolizes the end of something, but the beginning of something else. So, you know, the whole deck is just stunning. It just really, really is. I was trying to find my favorite ever devil card, but if I can't find him, it doesn't matter. I've done walkthrough of, I think, all of the decks actually on my channel. I'll link a couple of them if I can at the end of the video. But if not, then just go and search on the video. The links to each of these decks of cards will be in the description box below. They are my Amazon affiliate links. So if you do use my links, you know, just be aware that I may earn some money from it. Not a lot, pennies, but you know. But it'll only work if you're in the UK anyway, because it's Amazon UK. But like I say, all of the decks will be listed in the description box below, so you can go and find them yourself anyway, but I'll also put the link to the Amazon site so that if you are in the UK and you just want to go and buy them, you can. But that's the Light Seers Tarot. It is beautiful, it is easy, it is clear, and it's one I would recommend if you want a more modern feeling tarot deck. Now we go from one extreme to the other, from modern to original. We have the original Rider-Waite. Now, on my channel, you will have seen me, if you've watched any of my videos, you will have seen me using this one, the Universal Waite. The reason being, I just stole this off my daughter. This is my daughter's deck. And this is how much I value this, even though I put it at number 2. This is how much I value this as a beginner's tarot deck. This is the first deck I bought my daughter because it is the original. It is the one that everybody knows. It is the one that all other tarot decks kind of base themselves off of. And it is the one that the Tarot Bible is based off. Now, the only difference, not the only difference, but the main differences between this deck and the Universal Waite one are this is a non-glossy cardstock. It is a thicker cardstock as well. And the pictures themselves are slightly duller, not as bright and technicolor as the Universal Waite, which I'll show you in a minute to show you as a comparison. But this is the traditional, the original, and probably the best, even though it's not my number 1 for a beginner, but you'll see why in a minute. And like I say, this is the one that all books will talk about this tarot deck. All tarotists will know this tarot deck. You know, there is not a tarotist alive that has never heard of the Rider-Waite Tarot. So, as you can see, the pictures are pretty standard. They're good, solid, and they give a clear picture, a clear indication of what they mean. You know, you've got 10 of Cups there. They're all numbered. The little companion guide that comes with it is rubbish, quite frankly. Absolutely rubbish. Again, thin paper, everything is squished into tiny little writing, and without my glasses on, I can't read that. But everything is in there. The only thing that isn't in there is the reversals. It doesn't tell you what the reverse meanings of cards are. It does give you a couple of different spreads, I think, somewhere. I'm pretty sure it does anyway. So I think it gives you a couple of different spreads you can use. But, you know, the Universal Waite is exactly the same. Other than that, it's a pretty standard deck. But you can get this with a bigger companion guide. I have actually just found a set on eBay that has a proper book with it, rather than this floppy bit of paper that they put in with these standard card boxes. But here's the difference. Traditional original and universal. You can see the colors are the main difference here. The picture is almost identical, but they've just brightened it up for this deck. And it is a lot glossier and, sorry, it's upside down, and brighter. Now, when I first got this deck, I really hated the fact that it was glossy, and I wished I had bought this deck because matte finished decks are so much easier to shuffle. But this deck, now, it shuffles like a dream, and I love it. I've got to say, I absolutely love it. But I have ordered myself the traditional one as well because I'm a traditional girl in some respects, and I do like to have the originals of things whenever possible. So it was one of those things that I always thought it would be nice if I had the original. But yeah, it does, after you've used it a few times, the first time you have this deck, if you buy the universal Waite deck, the first time you have it, it will slide all over the place. Or maybe that's just me, you know, but now it shuffles like a dream, and it's gorgeous to work with. And it is so easy. And like I say, the Tarot Bible is based on the original. So all the pictures are there. Sorry, my battery just flashed up then. So all the pictures are there, all the explanations are there, and all the other details. I will be doing a video about books that you can buy that will help you with tarot reading. But traditional Rider-Waite, you cannot go wrong with buying the traditional Rider-Waite. Whether you buy the original or whether you buy the universal is a complete personal choice. The main difference, like I say, is the original is a matte finish. The pictures themselves are a bit duller, and the universal has that bright glossy finish to it, and still has the rubbish book. But you know, it is a more glossy card. But after you've used it a few times, it doesn't become so annoying to work with. But be warned, if you buy the universal, it is really annoying the first few times you use it until it kind of calms down. And that brings me to my number one tarot deck for beginners. Sorry. It is The Beginner's Guide to Tarot by Juliet Sharman Burke. Now, why, Nikki? Why is this your number one, I hear you cry? That's not the traditional deck. Aha. But for those of you on a budget, this, I mean, look at this. It's beautiful. This is perfect because you don't need to have a big tarot book to explain the meanings of everything, because look at this bad boy that comes with this tarot deck. I mean, this is a proper full-on book. You've got all the cards, their meanings. You've got the different suits explained. You've got spreads in here somewhere, I'm sure. You must have spreads somewhere. Yeah, so there's a couple of simple readings, ways to lay the cards out and do simple readings for the major arcana, the minor arcana, and the whole deck. I think there's only 3 altogether. But you also get, yet again, the Celtic Cross map, and a bonus on the back is another layout, which is very, very helpful for those beginning, because if you forget where you're supposed to put the cards and what order they're supposed to go in, it's all there laid out for you. As you can see, I've not used that, but very helpful for the beginner. And that book is, honestly, it's brilliant. And if you are just starting out and you just want to start reading and you don't really want to go into too much depth about the meaning of the tarot and going behind the tarot, you just want to kind of try your hand at reading, see if you can get a feel for it, see if you like it. This is a great deck to start with because it kind of is a complete package. And the artwork is also beautiful. It is very simple, very easy to understand. It has very much a nod to the traditional Rider-Waite. You know, I mean, the magician is doing exactly the same. He's doing his disco dance just like he does in the Rider-Waite deck. You know, there is a lot of similarity between the artwork, which is Giovanni Caselli, and the traditional Rider-Waite. But it is simple, it is beautiful, and it's very easy to understand. And each card is named. The only thing I don't like is the cards are not numbered. So like here, you have Justice, but it doesn't tell you which number Justice is in the major arcana. So you have to, until you get used to it, you have to kind of go through the book and find where each of the cards is. Although I think I just spotted in the contents, did I just spot that they're listed individually? Yes, they are. So the major arcana are listed individually so that you can go straight to the page for the one that you want. So it's not such a big deal that they're not numbered. I just prefer them to be numbered, but that's me. But the actual cards themselves, they're quite a glossy card. They've got this beautiful back to them, this beautiful purple sun. They are quite glossy, they are quite slippy, but they shuffle really nicely. And just like the Universal Waite, after you've used them a few times, they're not so difficult to handle. They are a lot easier to shuffle. You know, you get kind of used to them. They stop being, you know, flying all over the place and stop being sticky and anything like that. Although I don't think they were particularly sticky, and they do shuffle really nicely. And they are a standard cardstock. You know, standard size. They're not oversized. They're easy to shuffle, whether you've got little hands or big hands. I've got little hands, and so I like my cards to be a bit smaller because otherwise I really do struggle. But these are stunning. You know, they're really, really simple. I mean, look at this one, the Six of Cups, the card of nostalgia. Isn't that just gorgeous? You know, they really are beautifully done. And all of the decks, you can't really go wrong with whichever deck appeals to you. You know, it is a case of what appeals to you. What are you drawn to? What are you attracted to? Now, if you do want to check out, because I have done a walkthrough, I think of every tarot deck except the original Rider-Waite, because that's my daughter's, not mine. But I think I've done a walkthrough of all the other ones. I may not have done the Thoth, but I've certainly done the others. But if you search in the box on my main page, you will be able to find the walkthroughs that I've done on each of the decks. And you can check out every single individual card if you want to see whether or not it's something that speaks to you. Now, as I say, I will link them all in the description box below anyway. I will name them all. I will put who they're by, and I will put a link to amazon.co.uk, which will be an affiliate link of mine. Just putting that out there. You know, I'm not trying to make money out of you here, but, you know, I'd be silly not to put the affiliate link in if I have it. So that's what I will do. Let me just check I've got everything there. Yes, I think so. Sorry, I did write notes because I made this video about 4 times now and I kept forgetting to say something. So I had to redo it. But yeah, so that's it basically. And I will be creating more videos, more best of videos. And also I will be doing a video about the guidebooks that you can buy to go with the tarot. The ones that sort of go more in depth and tell you what to expect from them and how easy they are to read and that sort of thing. I've just ordered one from Amazon so I can check it out for you guys because I've not looked at it before. So I wanted to look at it before I did the video. But until next time, please just remember to like, share and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you in the next video. Namaste.